Sam Leavitt is an obvious name to be paying attention to in training camp, but there's a handful of guys on defense that I think are going to be sleepers.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. Shout out to my everydayers who are here every day, and thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications wherever you're getting your podcast. Stay in touch with the show by following me on Twitter at RichieBrats36, the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. And if you have not hit that subscribe button yet on YouTube, do me a favor, go ahead and hit that like or subscribe button, We're trying to get to 1,000 before the season starts. We are at 835. We have a long ways to go, but I know that the best fans in the world can get us there. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCalls for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back in. On today's edition of the show, we are taking a look at the players who I think we need to be paying the most attention to during training camp. Now, keep in mind, there's obvious names. Sam Leavitt is easily the player we're all going to be paying the closest attention to. But there are several players that are under the radar, and there's several players that you're just flat out not talking about. And that's what we're here to discuss today. We're going to take a look at the obvious names, who you're paying attention to, the less obvious names, and the sleepers. I've got about 3 for each category. It's not going to be the only guys I talk about. There'll be 3 primarily I focus on for each, though. Let's start with the obvious names. Let's start with Sam Leavitt, because Sam Leavitt is the quarterback for this team. In case you are unaware, Jaden Rashada transferred over the offseason, and there was a lot of speculation as to why he transferred. We don't know for sure. We probably never will know for sure. But one of the things we do concretely know is that he got beat out in spring ball by Sam Leavitt. Kenny Dillingham went into the offseason. He told Jaden, he told Trenton, he told every quarterback on the roster, hey, we're bringing in a guy. We're bringing in competition. They all said, bring it on. We're here for it. Sam Leavitt comes in, 4-star from Michigan State, and he plays better than the other guys. And he's going to go into training camp as QB1 for this team. And rightfully so. He is a really good player. Like, he's got an arm. He's got mobility. He's somebody that can do a little bit of everything at the quarterback position. He's not that quote-unquote traditional guy who's going to sit in the pocket all day. He can break out, and he can make those off-script throws. I don't know if I would call him a dual threat necessarily, but he is mobile. It's a very valuable asset to have to this offense. He's got some weapons. He's got an improved offensive line. He's got a really good, he's got a really good staff to help him take that next step with Kenny Dillingham, with Marcus Arroyo. He is absolutely, undoubtedly the most important player to watch, and it's not going to be close in training camp. He's the quarterback. He's brand new to the team. He beat out one of the biggest recruiting landings that the program has ever had. It explains itself. The next guy that I think we are going to be paying attention to the most, very obvious name, Jordan Tyson. Tyson is having a breakout this year. You can go ahead and put that in ink. Excuse me, guys. Jordan Tyson profiles as a wide receiver 1 for this team. He is incredibly fast, somebody that is a big play waiting to happen, if you will. Somebody that has prowess on special teams and has the ability to take it to the house whenever the football touches his hand. He is as physically gifted as ASU has ever seen at the receiver position. Certainly one of the most talented in the last several years. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver. It doesn't mean he's going to be an all-conference player or anything like that. But it does mean that this year we're going to see him really take a step forward and become a breakout guy either for this year or we start talking about him next year. Now, with that being said, there's a lot of competition at receiver. Troy O'Meara, Jake Smith, Melcon Stovall, Xavier Guillory are among the biggest names. Someone I haven't talked too much about that I need to talk about more is Malik McLean. Malik McLean, transfer from Penn State. Need to talk about him more. That's on me. But there is really good depth at receiver this year. And Tyson is going to need to have another stellar camp. And he was terrific in spring ball. I thought by the end of camp, he looked like wide receiver 1 because he did show off that playmaking ability, not just with the breakaway speed, but he was high pointing footballs. And he was somebody that looked like he had a really good catch radius and someone that you just put the ball somewhere near him. He's going to bring it down. But again, the biggest reason that I have him on my list here of the most important players to watch and the most obvious players to watch is because receiver is so talented that we're going to be really interested to see who ends up shaking out as the number 1 receiver. As of right now, it's Troy O'Meara. But who knows, by the end of camp, it might be Jordan Tyson because he did make those strides during spring ball to start building that momentum. Definitely going to be paying attention to him. He should be working out with the first team, and then I would imagine he gets second team reps as the true X receiver, but he'll definitely be working with first team in 3 receiver sets. Next guy I want to mention before we do a handful of honorable mentions is Xavier Alford. And Alford is friend of the podcast. He's somebody who dominated camp last year before he was ruled ineligible by the NCAA for their 2-time transfer policy. He's back. If he is playing at that level that he was playing at before he was ruled ineligible, you're talking about a center fielder on the defense, somebody who can go all over the place and make plays for you. He is as talented a safety as anybody else on this team. And there's no shortage of talent with Shamari Simmons, with Kamari Lassiter, with Ghost Rouser, with Montana Warren. There's a lot of guys here on this Sun Devils or in this Sun Devils safety position. And Alford is going to have to find a way to stand out. Again, he did that last year. Can he do it again? Can he run it back? Can he prove that he is still worthy of being a borderline plug-and-play player into the secondary? But he's got ball hawking skills, and it just feels like he's always around the football. For whatever reason, wherever it is, if it's in the backfield, if it's deep down the field, if it's on the far left sideline or the far right sideline or across the middle, number 2 is always there. He is a very talented player, and I will be interested to see if he can build off of that. Now, a handful of other guys I want to mention that are kind of obvious names here. Troy O'Meara, for sure. You're going to see whether or not he can be the wide receiver 1. Him and Jordan Tyson are going to have a very intense training camp. I would also throw in Cameron Scadaboo, but I don't know if it's necessarily like this, like, oh my God, we got to watch Cameron Scadaboo because he's going to break out this year, because he's already had a breakout, in my opinion. But it'll be interesting to see if he ends up being a bell cow for ASU this year with the depth at running back. Along the defensive line, Clayton Smith, always someone that really intrigues me as a redshirt junior who was added like 15 to 20 pounds of muscle and looks ready to absolutely dominate off the edge this year. Linebackers, there's a handful of them. Keyshawn Elliott probably has the most attention for me in terms of obvious names. He feels like one of the starters right now. We'll wait and see if that ends up being the case. LT Welsh, right now he's your number 1 corner. Will that end up being the case by the end of camp? I would also throw Javen Robinson in there because the competition at corner is really stiff. There's Keith Abney, there's Keontae Bradley, there's some of the freshmen who, spoiler alert, we'll talk about them a little later. There's a lot of guys in the secondary, and the corner room does have competition. How is it going to end up shaking out? And then I do want to bring attention to special teams. It wasn't the strength of Sun Devils football last year with the field goals, but you've got Carson Kiefer and Parker Lewis who are going to be competing for those opportunities to be your field goal kicker and stuff like that. Parker Lewis probably has the edge as a redshirt senior, but Carson Kiefer as a redshirt freshman could end up usurping him if everything goes right. We're going to go ahead and transition now to the less obvious players who we'll be paying attention to in camp. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to talk to you guys about our friends over at Game Time, because Game Time is the authorized marketplace of Major League Baseball and makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. Killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. You can get up to 60% off for buying last-minute tickets for sports, but also comedy and concerts, theater, and more. You can save with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event, or you can try the zone deals, where you pick a section, Game Time chooses the seat for more savings. There's an all-in pricing feature that'll show the total up front, and you're not given any surprise fees at checkout. You can get a seat view, so you have a panoramic view of your seat before you buy, so you know what to expect when you arrive. Their lowest price guarantee means Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. And Game Time's ticket coverage, it's the best in the industry. It's covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Also want to talk to you about our friends over at Factory. Warmer, sunnier days are calling. Fuel up on them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals for the summer, thanks to a menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Make today the day that you kickstart that healthy routine. And what are you waiting for? There's 35 different meals and more than 60 different add-ons to choose from every week. You'll always have new flavors to explore. You can crush your wellness goals this summer with dietitian-approved meals and ingredients that you can trust. Make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. Treat yourself to restaurant-quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and black-ended salmon. Keep kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are ready in 2 minutes. No shopping, prepping, cooking, or cleanup. Enjoy effortless support for your lifestyle. Choose up to 6 different menu preferences. Help manage your calories, maximize protein intake, avoid meat, or simply eat well-balanced. Head over to factorymeals.com/lockedoncollege50. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's LOCKEDON50 at factorymeals.com/lockedoncollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. Wherever you're getting your podcast, hit like, hit subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. I appreciate you all for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. A shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, do me a favor, hit subscribe on YouTube, particularly We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers before the season starts. We got a long ways to go, but I know that we can get it together. Back into our conversation, taking a look at some of the less obvious names that you need to be paying attention to in Sun Devils training camp. We're going to go to the offensive line. And the reason why is a lot of people don't really, I won't say care about the offensive line's competition, but more often than not, people are more interested in the premium positions, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, corner back. Like there's more exciting positions, if you will, to be paying attention to. But the offensive line still has guys to pay attention to. To me, the one who stands out the most is Ben Coleman. Coleman missed last year due to recovery from a lower leg injury. He is back. He is healthy. He is the closest thing to a plug and play along the offensive line. But with that being said, there is competition here. And the interior of the offensive line in particular has a lot of interesting guys. Joey Sua, Sean Na'a, Jalin Clem is someone that you could plug on the inside. Cal Scott, Cade Briggs. There is depth here that the Sun Devils could roll with on the offensive line and in the interior. Terrell Kim, a incoming freshman, is also somebody to pay attention to. Is Coleman guaranteed his spot is the biggest question. Is Coleman going to come in and look 100%? He looked very good in spring ball. Is he going to continue to look good in training camp? Like I said, this is one of the closest players you have on the roster, not just the offensive line, to being a plug-and-play player. He was a former all-conference player when he was at Cal in the Pac-12. There's absolutely the potential here for him to pick up where he left off. But the competition is stiff. And that's where I will be the most curious is he 100% healthy? And is he going to be able to stave off the younger guys or the transfers or anybody else? Next guy I want to talk about, going to the tight end position. And I got a tie here. And it's between Shimon Mateer and Marqueston Douglas. I don't know who your starting who your starting tight end is here between Douglas and Mateer. It feels like it's absolutely between those two. I don't know if there's anybody else that I would really look at and be like, oh yeah, that's definitely the starter. It feels like you're going to go with a veteran. You're going to go with somebody that can bring a little bit of everything to you, from blocking to pass catching to red zone prowess and run after catch and all that good stuff. I would lean towards Mateer in terms of guys I'm more excited about, and I would put that in quotes. I would probably go with Marqueston Douglas to be the starter. That is subject to change once I am able to actually witness him in person, which, by the way, a little segue, the Locked On Sun Devils podcast is going to be keeping you up to date with training camp stuff when I am able to go out there. I am not going to piggyback off of other people, but when I am able to attend training camp, we will have episodes dedicated to what I saw at training camp. So hit that subscribe button. The tight end position, though, Kenny Dillingham has said he wants to run a pro-style offense. And part of running a pro-style offense is having the tight end featured, whether it is blocking, whether it is in the pass-catching game. He wants to run 2 tight end sets. This is also a position, however, that doesn't have any continuity returning. It's a brand new room. Not a single tight end on this roster caught a pass for the Sun Devils last year. How's it end up shaking out? Who's tight end 1? Who's tight end 2? What are their roles going to be? Going to be paying attention to that in training camp for sure. Mateer and Douglas are at the top of that list. Next thing I want to talk about, also on the defense, is Jeff Clark. And Jeff Clark is an incoming defensive tackle transfer from Louisville. He also played 3 years at Georgia State, where he was pretty darn productive from the interior. The reason why he is on my list is because ASU has had a very big emphasis on having a veteran defensive tackle to lead the group. Specifically, graduate transfers, funny enough. 2022, it was Nesta Jade Silvera. 2023, it was Deshaun Mallory. This year is Jeff Clark. And this is a good defensive tackle room, by the way. You have CJ Fight as the starter next to him, but you also have Jacob Rich Kungaika there. You really attack the transfer portal. You bring in Zach Swanson, you bring in JP Dieter. There are a lot of guys here to watch, to pay attention to, and see how they end up shaking out for the Sun Devils. But this trend that ASU has had with the veteran transferred defensive lineman being plugged into the starting lineup, that bodes very well for Jeff Clark. If history repeats itself, and time is a flat circle, as you have heard that saying before. Sorry, I just knocked my microphone. Time is a flat circle. And if everything lines up this way, then you could end up seeing Jeff Clark as your starting defensive tackle next to CJ Fight, and having a very important role, mind you, as a starting defensive tackle next to CJ Fight. Being that veteran, being somebody who can do a little bit of run stuffing and rushing the passer, helping the guys behind him continue to develop. Those are my less obvious names for training camp that I'll be paying attention to. Now, I've got a handful of sleepers for you guys. We're going to talk about them in just a moment. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Passion, drive, patience, the winning formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And the eBay Guaranteed Fit means your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. One more time, wherever you're getting those podcasts, hit like, hit subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. I appreciate you guys for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. Shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. And if you haven't hit subscribe on YouTube yet, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Help us get to 1,000 subscribers before the season starts. We'll find a way to celebrate together. Handful of sleepers here. We'll start with the offensive side of the football. We're going to start with the running back room. And we're going to start with one of the more high-profile names, I would say, but someone who is not being talked about, and it makes a little bit of sense, and that's incoming four-star Jason Brown. Jason Brown is the prize gem of this recruiting class. He was the highest-ranked player. He was one of the top running backs in the recruiting cycle. He is, for all intents and purposes, more than likely the future at this position. You have your top two running backs who are in their senior years with Cam Scadaboo and Carlos Brooks. They should be gone after this year unless they have another year of eligibility, which I don't think that's going to be the case. Alton McCaskill, redshirt junior, he is a really intriguing player to watch this year. I don't know what the role looks like for him. Raleek Brown, superstar in the making. Is he going to get like a gadget role? Are they gonna play him a lot in what passing situations? That's a word I'm looking for. What's his role look like? Tyson Brown, can he build off of last year? But Jason Brown, he's running back 6. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. ASU has 6 running backs on their team that you could start any of them and you feel comfortable with it. Jason Brown is one of them. He's incredibly talented. He's a little spark plug at like 5'8.5" or something like that, depending on what his actual measurements are. He is the future at the position for sure. It's just a matter of, will he find his way onto the football field pretty consistently this year, or is he definitely going to be facing a redshirt year? He's someone that I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to because he's a very exciting player. And it's like, can you get him onto the field enough? Can he show enough in training camp that it gets to a point where you're kind of like, we can't justify keeping him off the field? Play your good players, play your stars. Jason Brown is highly touted for a reason. He might just be able to get onto the football field on a very, 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 very consistent basis for the Sun Devils this year, but it starts in training camp. Next guy I want to talk about is Kavion Thunderbird. Now, Kavion Thunderbird took a redshirt year at linebacker last year. That felt like it was always going to be in the cards as someone that they wanted to see bulk up a little bit, somebody that they wanted to get some reps behind veteran linebackers like Trey Brown. They also had some really intriguing transfers come in, like Tate Romney, who was someone they really liked. Another veteran, and Caleb McCullough was there. Will Schaefer was there before he transferred. There was depth at linebacker last year. There was veterans at linebacker last year. It led to Kavion Thunderbird taking that redshirt year to get his feet underneath him and all that good stuff. Is he ready for the next step in his collegiate career? We're about to find out. We're about to find out with a linebacker position that, once again, has a lot of depth and a lot of talent and a lot of veterans. Is he ready to make that jump? And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he has to make that jump, because he still might be a year away with everything that's going on at the linebacker position right now. But nonetheless, he's someone that I will be paying quite a bit of attention to. He's really got a lot of my attention, and I'm very excited about Kavion too. Spring ball, he looked very good. He was flying around the field. He was making plays in coverage. If he's able to build on that with the linebacker position this year, I anticipate it's going to be a lot of rotation. Kavion might be able to get into that rotation. And if he gets onto the field, it may turn out to be pretty difficult to keep him off of it. The last two guys I want to talk about, I have a tie once again, are two freshman corners, two guys who were able to enroll early for the Sun Devils and play and practice during spring ball. Let me introduce you to Rodney Bimich and Tony Lewis in Cuba. These two took no time at all to grab the attention of everybody that was watching these kids. And it has me really excited for the future of this team. And ASU is a really young team right now at the corner position. You've got LT Welsh, who's a redshirt junior. You've got Javen Robinson, who is a true junior, I believe. Trying to pull it up. Of course, my internet is a little slow right now. But you've got a redshirt freshman in Keontae Bradley. You have a true sophomore in Keith Abney. Now you've got a bunch of freshmen that are coming in for the team. There's a lot of youth here. And Javen Robinson, redshirt sophomore, by the way, now that it finally loaded for me. You've got Cole Martin. You got Mason Williams. There's a lot of depth here at corner. But if those two play as well as they did in spring ball, again, stop me if you've heard this trend, you can't justify keeping them off the field. And you're not guaranteed to have all these guys ahead of them play better than Bimich and play better than in Cuba. You might have a couple of guys who just don't play as well. Maybe there's guys who don't fit the system. Maybe there's guys that just aren't true starters for the team. Or maybe ASU just wants to see what they have in the younger guys sooner rather than later. These guys, these two in particular, Bimage and Nkuba, they find a way to stand out early in training camp. You might hear their names quite a bit this year, because I don't think anyone was anticipating to hear a lot of Keith Abney last year. And yet Abney got onto the field quite a bit, especially in the later part of the season. You might have another situation this year where a kid like Bimage, a kid like Nkuba, maybe Chris Johnson Jr. end up really standing out. And by the end of training camp, you look at them and you go, you might see them on the field this year. And then lo and behold, during the season, it's like, hey, who is this kid? Who is this freshman? Rodney Bimage? Who is that guy? And then you learn. And then you're like, okay, he's a young dude, part of the future. Let's see it work out. These are my sleepers that I'm paying attention to. These are my obvious names I'm paying attention to, and these are my less obvious names I'm paying attention to on both sides of the football, plus the kicker competition. Who are you looking forward to hearing about during training camp? Who are you looking forward to seeing whether or not they're ready to break out, or maybe they need some more time to stew and get that confidence? Let me know in the comments. You can hit me up on Twitter, Richie Brads, 36, the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. Wherever you're getting your podcast, hit like, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, especially if you have not hit subscribe on YouTube. Help us get to 1,000 followers before the season starts. We are going to find a way to celebrate for sure. But as always, appreciate you guys. Shout out to my everydayers who are here every day, and thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We will be back again tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue to get ready and primed for football season. We will be in August, ladies and gentlemen. There's football at the end of the month. The end is in sight. I am very excited for this season, and I hope that you guys are excited too. But we'll talk more tomorrow. I'll see you then. Till then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.